Hey guys, how's it going? Yuri here. Hope you're having an awesome day and week and year in life. And it's only going to get better today, because today I'm going to share with you 3 ways to lose weight even when you can't. So if you've wanted to lose weight for however long and you haven't really been able to do that, then I hope what I'm about to share with you is going to help you out. Now today I'm not going to talk about exercise, interestingly enough. Now exercise is definitely going to help you, but I want to give you 3 things that not a lot of people think about as it pertains to weight loss. So if you're kind of struggling, then maybe these will give you an extra little edge. Now, these are also 3 concepts I talk in my upcoming book, The All-Day Fat Burning Diet. So stay tuned for that. It comes out in December. Okay, so number 1 is, it looks like we've got like skyscrapers here. Essentially what this is a visual representation of staggering your calories or cycling your caloric intake. So why would you want to do this? Well, remember I'm sure you're probably not that old, but let's just look back to our Paleolithic ancestors. When they first walked the earth, they didn't have a Starbucks to go to. They didn't have a refrigerator. They didn't have a store to get food 24/7. They went through periods of eating food and then not eating food. They would catch something and eat it. They may have gone through periods where it was very cold and maybe all the plants were frozen. They couldn't have access to that, or they didn't find anything to hunt that specific day. So they were in a bit of a fast, right? Or a bit of a famine for 1 or 2 days. And that's how our physiology has evolved. So even to this day, we're working on the same operating system, right? We haven't evolved at all, pretty much physiologically, from where we were when we first walked the planet. So the problem is nowadays, we've been led lies that are saying you have to eat every 2 to 3 hours, you have to eat 5 or 6 meals a day. But here's the problem: is when you eat all the time, you don't give your body a breather. And let me just make this a little bit more concrete for you to understand. Blood sugar is a big issue, as you probably know, okay? So how does blood sugar get elevated? Well, it elevates when we eat, and predominantly when we eat carbohydrates, but also protein. Not a lot of people think about that. So if you're always eating, then you're constantly keeping your blood sugar at a slightly higher than normal position, right? The problem there is that insulin is a hormone that then takes that sugar out of the blood and stores it in your muscle, liver, and fat cells. So if insulin is constantly elevated, then that's a very big problem, because insulin leads to inflammation, and anytime you have inflammation, you're going to have weight gain or an inability to lose weight. So by sometimes eating less, or sometimes not at all, you actually help regulate your blood sugar a lot more effectively, as well as a lot of other hormones. But I'm going to keep it simple for you with a simple little rhyme that I like to use. Some days yes, some days no, some days high, some days low. Okay, so think about this. On some days, enjoy as much food as you want, right? And the key to all this is listening to your body. Eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. Okay, I'm sure you can relate to this. There are some days where you wake up and you just want to inhale however much food, right? Do that, but in obviously a respectful and mindful way. Other days you wake up and you just don't feel hungry. Well, don't eat, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And the studies show that it doesn't matter if you have 5 or 6 meals a day versus 1 or 2 meals a day. As long as total calories are the same, there is no impact on your metabolism. Your metabolism is not going to shut down, okay? So let's say you have one day where you have a normal caloric intake, other days where you just do nothing but water. So you do like a 1-day fast, very, very beneficial. And I'll talk more about this in the future videos. Other days you have a lot more food intake, and you can just kind of cycle it back and forth through like that. Now, what I'm not suggesting here is I'm not talking about cheat days where you have beer and pizza and hamburgers and french fries and ice cream. Other people talk about that. I don't believe that's a sustainable way of eating, because it leads to cravings and addictions and very bad eating habits. I'm talking about eating generally real healthy foods, but in higher and lower quantities throughout the week to mimic the way your body naturally works physiologically. This has a lot of benefits, specifically to leptin, which is a hormone that our brain stops listening to, and leptin tells us when to stop eating. But the fact that we're always eating so much can sever that communication, so we don't actually get the message, hey, stop eating. So anyways, I'm not going to get too complex with it, but just think about some days high, some days low, some days yes, some days no. Cool? Number 2 is sleep on it. Okay? So the second way to help you lose weight even when you can't is to sleep on it. And what that means is that sleep is really important. Let me give you a really quick example. And again, I talk about specific studies in the book, but for now, think about this. Sleep has a very, very direct relationship with two hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin. Leptin, again, as I just mentioned, tells your brain, I'm full. Ghrelin says, I'm hungry. So when you sleep, or actually, sorry, when you don't sleep enough, and the average that we're looking for is about 7 to 9 hours a night of good quality sleep. When you don't sleep enough, okay, either poor quality or not enough, or even too much, okay, there's actually a lot of research that shows more than 9 hours becomes a very big risk factor for early mortality, which is not good. So when you don't sleep enough, what ends up happening is that your ghrelin levels go up and your leptin levels go down. So just that's, again, there's a lot of other things that happen, but let's just think about these two hormones for a second. When you don't sleep, your body is essentially getting the message that I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. Now also think about, obviously that's going to force you to eat, right? The other thing to think about is when you're not sleeping, that is a stress on your body. So cortisol tends to go up as well. And when we have high levels of cortisol, what does the body do? It goes into protective mode and it stores and holds on to fat. So sleep is very important. So again, do what you can. Dark room, cold room, no external influences. Really try to put yourself in a cold tomb, okay? A cold, dark tomb. Just think about that to help you sleep better. And number 3 is, you're gonna love this one, eat more carbs. Let me put an asterisk on this. There are times when eating fewer carbs is very beneficial, okay? And it's actually part of my 5-day food cycling formula in the all-day fat burning diet. But anyways, right here what I'm saying is eating more carbs is actually really important, specifically for women. And the reason I suggest that is because it's so counterintuitive, right? Women have been led to believe carbs are the devil, they're so bad for you, avoid them at all costs. And that's why the whole paleo movement has kind of taken off. But carbs are very good. Again, I'm not talking about breads and pastas and cereals, although you can have those in their gluten-free form. However, I would strongly suggest that you keep your carbs to fruits, starchier vegetables like root vegetables, carrots, beets, sweet potatoes, stuff like that. The reason they're so important, especially for weight loss, is that they keep your thyroid cranking out. Okay, so a lot of women have problems with hypothyroidism, which is low thyroid, and studies show that when we decrease our carb intake, our levels of active thyroid hormone, or T3, plummet. And that's not a good thing, because when that happens, your metabolism plummets as well, and you don't lose weight. Okay, so carbs, very important. Now, you don't want to go crazy on this stuff, but again, don't worry about measuring grams and stuff like that. But if you are going to eat your carbs, have them later in the day. And again, this is completely against logic. Like, oh my God, I've heard it's like you're going to store fat if you have carbs later in the day. The reality is that you should start your day with protein and end your day with carbohydrates. Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he was into bodybuilding way back in the day, and even today in the bodybuilding community, it's known as carb backloading. Essentially, you have more of the carbs later in the day because, again, we won't talk about bodybuilding for a second, but amongst other things, carbs at night help you sleep better. Let me tell you why. Carbs are actually a much greater precursor to melatonin, which is very important for inducing sleep. And people think about turkey as being inducing melatonin and stuff like that, like serotonin and tryptophan and all that. It's all part of the same sequence. The reality is that turkey has less of that than chicken does. And the real precursor to melatonin via serotonin is our carbohydrates. So having carbohydrates later in the day is actually much more beneficial for you. You don't have to have all your carbohydrates all the time for dinner. You don't have to have a huge plate of pasta, for instance, at dinner. But if you are going to have carbs, have them later in the day. The other reason for that is because later in the day, cortisol tends to go down. And that's great because that sets us up for a good night's sleep. When you have carbs later in the day, that naturally goes into kind of flows with our natural circadian rhythm of cortisol levels. Okay, so that's a really good thing. So start the day with protein, end the day with carbohydrates. But again, for dinner, you can still have protein with salad and carbohydrates in there. Okay, I'm not saying a plate of pasta for dinner every single night. So again, quick recap: cycle your calories throughout the week. Some days yes, some days no, some days high, some days low. Get better sleep. Very important for controlling your hunger hormones, but also for stress and thyroid and all that other stuff. Eat more carbs. Okay, don't worry about avoiding your carbs. If you're avoiding carbs all the time, you're going to kill your thyroid, and that's really going to help you not lose weight. Okay, so put those into play starting today. And while you're here, I'd love for you to let me know in the comments below, what is your biggest challenge with losing weight? Right? What is your sticking point? Anyways, let me know in the comments below, and based on your comments, I'll do my best to create a video for that specific issue in one of my upcoming Mastery videos or one of these more in-depth videos. So do that today, add a comment below, and I look forward to seeing you soon.